before I begin, I wanted to show you the fact that though you'll be seeing images, and many of them are of actual physical objects, and these objects are not one-dimensional as we'll experience them on a screen, but they occupy three-dimensional space. So we're interacting with them as objects, not as images. For instance, let's see if I could, there. This is a beer lover's beer with a, sorry, I have to get my coordination right. Beer lover's beer. So you've got a white woman's back with a pink lobster on top of her. So when someone's holding this beer, they're also grasping an image. They're reinforcing the misogyny at another level. Or this. Here is, so somebody was kind enough to send me the packaging for this. Let's see. I'm sure many of you have seen this. This is this low-fat, the skinny cow. So the skinny cow has a tape measure around her waist. The idea is that you have this kind of ice cream sandwich, you'll be skinny too. But the misogyny here is about fat phobia, body type, but also the idea that cows even should be aware of weight when it's the skinny cow who's actually the sick cow. Or this dog toy from Italy. So Screaming Polo.
Oh, wow.
It's a dog toy. Again, you've got all this pinkness like the lobster with the mouth open. So here's a real misogynist thing. I see a lot of images that imply animals themselves are looking at women the way the sort of heteronormative world looks at women. So, and then this, it's a grill. This is from Chick-fil-A. It was a national chain in the United States. I don't know if it's international, but when they did this campaign, they had this outside. It's a grill, the pink, the femininity again, a pinkness being both white and feminine. But I went to the local store to talk to the person about it, and he said not only did they have this up, but they were handing out cigars to male customers. And all of this is about a dead chicken, but it's truly sort of oppressive imaging. So let's look at some more. Okay, so just to remind you all that while these images and many others like them are already in wide circulation, seeing this volume of images all at one time with this kind of attention and critical frame of reference may make them disturbing in a way that they have not been before. Having to confront these images may feel triggering to you along different experiences that are shaped by other oppressive social structures that independently interconnect, such as race, sexuality, class, and gender expression. The hope is that the cumulative power of these diverse images can also spark insight and resistance to their messages. So, as I said, the book came out 30 years ago. Have things changed, you might be wondering. The Pornography of Meat, the new and updated version, is the answer. My answer is no. But throughout this presentation, we'll see that what I described and criticized then is alive and circulating now. We still live in a white supremacist, human-centered, patriarchal world. So after the book appeared, the first thing that changed was my life. People write me and tell me the book changed their lives, but the book is constantly changing my life too. And one way it did was all of these images and examples, matchbooks, people stopping and taking photos, taking menus and sending them to me, which began what I call an oppressive images collection. You saw some of the items at the beginning. I call the people who send these to me grassroots sociologists, and I invite you to be one as well. I feel we need to record how extensive this is. The first aspect of the sexual politics of meat and the pornography of meat is the idea that men need to eat meat. They have to man up, or eat like a man. Remasculinization goes through continual stages as masculinity, a construct of the gender binary facing constant destabilization, feels always under threat. And with lots of these images, you'll see that it's really white men who are targeted as the viewers and the consumers. So imagine this, the manly man can't get flowers. I mean, all the gender binary assumptions that go on here. So you have to get beef jerky. So these advertisements suggest an anxious masculinity. The commitment to meat, dairy, and eggs and sea animals is a patriarchal commitment. Representations of meat and dairy and eggs mobilize retrograde reactionary beliefs about men and meat eating. And the interesting thing is that it's so unstable that if you don't eat meat for lunch or dinner or breakfast or something, you're signaling your complete departure from norms about manliness. All you have to do is skip one meat identified meal around other men, and suddenly all of manliness comes under attack. Here, this is Germany, T-bone instead of tofu. Posturing against veganism is a way to declare one's masculinity. Here's one from Dublin. Wish this was made from tofu, said no one ever. I say it all the time, but then maybe I'm a no one. So what's going on? Tofu offers protein. This is a revolutionary destabilization of male-identified colonial Western protein. And in the Pornography of Meat, the new edition, I argue that Western cultures co-constructed meat-eating, masculinity, nationhood, and white supremacy. So the masculinity being invoked is connected to whiteness. It's white manhood that is somehow constantly under threat, if not by tofu, then by salad. So good, even guys like our salad. Yes, that's me stopping to take a photograph, and my son was in the car, so he decided to photograph the photographer. But do you get the misogyny here? So good, even guys like our salads. Men have the right to be pleased. Women don't have to have their desires met or don't have desires that are noticed. It's assumed we'll settle for less. The belief that meat is the best or only protein source is a racist belief, after all, discounting the way the majority of the cultures of this world ate. During the 19th century, meat eating became associated with colonial expansion by Western countries, especially Great Britain. They were masculizing those Western countries and feminizing what they called rice-eating countries. So the colonized became equated with feminized rice eaters, and non-beef eating ways became signs of weakness and were emasculating. And we see this still operating. In the sexual politics of meat, I propose that animals become absent reference in meat, dairy, and eggs. They disappear as individuals with desires and relationships and become objects. They disappear as living beings, and that we would conceptualize as a certain cow or a certain chicken, each with their own personality, and become corpses that are then divided up and consumed. Even though in the past 30 years, we've seen lots of chef shows where animals are actively killed on screen, they're still absent reference in the sense that they are seen as so emptied of individuality that they can be killed in that manner. This is David Lynch's Eat My Fear Cow. He made that for the New York City Cow Parade many years ago. 100 fiberglass cows placed all over New York. This one was placed in Midtown Manhattan, and little kids came around it and started to cry, so it was covered and removed. But so that's the operating of the absent referent. We don't really want to know, though knowing doesn't stop people either. But in general, it's kept under wraps, the disembowelment and killing of animals. This was what was interesting about this is that somebody knew I had this photo, and it turned out David Lynch himself didn't have a photo of it, so I had to share it back with him. In both Sexual Politics of Meat and Pornography of Meat, I look at fragmentation and oppression. So this is the famous image on the front of Sexual Politics of Meat, based on image for a steakhouse in New York City. But it's basically body chopping. Body chopping is a formal term for images and advertisements that display only a part of an individual. Advertisers dismember body parts to enhance the effectiveness of an ad. At least that's the ostensible reason for depicting a shoulder or a leg rather than an entire body. But ads often depict women's bodies without heads or faces. Much less frequently, men are depicted in this manner. So here's an old trope of, whose legs are you talking about, women's legs or a dead chicken's legs? But this is very recent, just a couple years ago in Bristol. This mural for a Cajun restaurant here in Dallas is a reminder that women's bodies are under surveillance. They can be stared at and appropriated. Whose perspective came up with the idea that the way to advertise a crayfish restaurant is through showing the supposed fragmenting fantasies of a male crayfish? Most animals are not consumed whole. They're chopped up or fragmented. A fragmented animal's leg, but with feminized red high heels for a magazine cover. This is a steakhouse announcing it would soon be opening with a different entrance in Birmingham. And of course, it just showed a part of a woman's body. Fabulous new rear. Notice that, it's white underpants, very always evoking purity and virginity. This is new a couple weeks ago from Europe, the fragmented white woman's body, again, no face. And another new one that when you do show a fragmented woman's body, and this again is a fragmented white woman, just a part of her face is shown, no eyes. You've got red lips and dead flesh, but also a patriarchal fascination with what women's mouths will consume. Here's a recent one from Selfridges in London. Breast enhancer, see at the bottom, it says it lets you take the taste up a size. Again, a fat phobia in its own way, what can be big, what can be large versus what can't. This is an issue that women want to take their breast sizes up, that they need to always examine how their body looks, make it more attractive, the reminder of the surveillance of women's bodies and a fragmenting view of women's and animals' bodies. So in these ways, women and animals become overlapping absent reference, in which the oppression of one group is used to heighten and intensify the oppression of another. Justifications for exploitation move between and among the absent reference, confirming a dominant viewpoint that these are bodies for use. Because of the concept of the absent referent, I'm not saying women are like animals. Animals are like women. This is a very sort of conservative animal rights approach that tries to do comparisons. And I think comparisons are deadly. Comparisons are wrong. That weakens our argument to take animals seriously by saying, oh, animals are like someone else we already take seriously. I'm saying that their own unique oppression is used to leverage the oppression against the other being dominated. So in this example, the butchered animals are the absent referent. And in this example, a sexualized woman is the absent reference. So here's the sexualized animal. The interesting thing is here we see the movement of poses across a species boundary. But once you show a chicken or a pig in the same position as a woman, the man usually is removed because the implication of bestiality would be too strong. So usually there's an absence of the man, though that's who they are all posing for. This is what I've been sent many images like this. This is from Europe. The sexualized woman is the absent referent on the back of a transport truck taking pigs to slaughter, when we know that pigs would actually look like this. This too is a slaughter pig transport truck. It says transport with passion. It's strange, isn't it, that the only desire animals are credited with having is the desire to be killed and eaten. So the sexual politics of meat, the pornography of meat, exploits the asymmetrical, unequal relationship of gender to normalize animal oppression. And so it's again, naturalizing the gender binary too. It's also naturalizing this consumer vision in which farmed animals are imputed to desire their own death and consumption. In this image, you can't really even tell whether this is a pig or a woman because the breasts being evoked, there's just two of them, and pigs have more nipples than that. So here you've got the misogyny, again, a fragmented woman who can argue back when you don't have a head. So the animals depicted in these positions are powerless, yet they want it. Again, here's some pinkness for femininity and whiteness. They're dead, yet they beckon. Lots of pinkness here. The stand-ins for women smile or wink. They want you to want them. They want to be killed. They want to be available to you. If any of you are near Cambridge, let me know if this is still near the train station. These female animals are begging for it. Filthy Cow was a restaurant in Manchester, and this is where you went by. All the feminizing, sexualizing, the pearls, the fishnet stockings, the high heels. These are tropes that we'll see over and over again. Dublin, bacon gives me a lard on. So misogyny is supposedly not talking about women here, but the other animals. And so in the cultural logic of human superiority, these depictions are seen as harmless and just a joke. In the sexual politics of meat, I coined the term feminized protein to point out that mammalian milk extracted from cows as well as eggs from hens forced to produce is protein processed by a female body. Feminized protein exists as a result of the exploitation of the female body. Roger sent me this one. Ouch, look at all this whiteness. A white man loving his white boxed fresh milk, white t-shirt, a pastoral landscape. Here's a nostalgia for a simpler time. Nostalgia is often evoked in some of these images for a simpler time when, before women's liberation. Just a footnote that it was found that people who voted for Trump in 2016 all felt the 1950s were a better decade, and the 1950s were just the height of oppression for women and in the United States, people of color who were experiencing our version of apartheid. But anyway, whiteness also because it is whites who are able to digest mammalian milk, those who are descendants of Europeans, Eastern Europeans, and the majority of the world cannot digest mammalian milk after childhood, after infancy. So here's just a reminder how cows have their milk taken away from them. It's not pastoral. And her offspring is a competitor for the fluid extracted mammalian milk that must be monetized. So look at how all the cows watch as the newborn calf is removed. Will the cow be able to resist humans' ways and chase after her calf? If she can, she will. But resistance on the other side of the species line ends up with a death sentence. So one cow who tried to fracture a kneecap with a very precise kick was said to be killed, and this homemade bitch from hell ear tag for that cow was posted to Uptrend Farm and Agriculture. You can see it had like 1,300 shares, 4,000 love this, the plus side about writing your own ear tags, and so many of them reported their own ear tags, which included the slut, revenge is sweet, kill. And the interesting thing is the same farmers who say they care about the animals talk this way about them. And as I say, if you love your animals and this is what happens to them, I'm glad you don't love me. So have things changed since the sexual politics of meat came out in 30 years ago? Here's a feminized pig from 1979. And this one is from Atlanta 2 years ago. There they are together. Or the images of the two editions of the Pornography of Meat. The one, will it be your left as well, I hope? The 100% pure beef, was a mural in New York City. And the one on the right is from Los Angeles just last year, Eat Me. There's those fishnet stockings, the red high heels. Again, the only, women without any head, but yet somehow this burger can speak. One big difference is the awareness of activism around these issues. Even though the oppressive representations and material objects continue to be produced and circulate, reflecting a white supremacist patriarchal culture, we can find increasing resistance to these kinds of messages from a feminist vegan perspective. I love this response to the European image I showed you earlier. The book being quoted is the Spanish edition of The Sexual Politics of Meat. And so too, this one was criticized, citing the Spanish edition as well. As you can imagine, I love this tweet. Hello, Earthlings. Let's all read The Sexual Politics of Meat and then meet back here for a do-over. So thank you.
Thank you, Carol.